I'd like to yield 1 minute to the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives from California.
Gentlewoman from California is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding. I thank him for his great leadership of the Joint Economic Committee, a place where we can really think in a way that is entrepreneurial and successful for the American people. His private sector experience, as well as respect for the public sector and the nonprofit sector, equips him well to lead that important committee and to take us to the floor on this bill. Following the Budget Committee under the leadership of John Yarmouth, a tireless worker for the budget and this resolution. Mr. Speaker, I believe that a budget should be a statement of our national values. What is important to us as a nation should be reflected in when we put a budget together. It's curious to me to hear the distinguished gentleman on the other side of the aisle. It would be ludicrous if it weren't so deadly serious. $1.9 trillion, President of the United States, has determined is necessary to meet the needs of the American people at a time of a pandemic, at a time of consequences to our economy that are drastic, and I'll go on to that in a moment. 1.9 trillion, which is almost exactly the figure of cost of the Republican tax break that they gave to the richest people in America. 83% of the benefits went to the top 1%. So this legislation, which helps meet the needs of the American people, to be considered a tax break bill for the rich, it's pathetic. It's pathetic. And it's just the fact of this Congress is that somebody can say things that aren't true on the floor, but if you say that they said something that was untrue, you would be called out of order. But I would just say the facts are these. 1.9 trillion when you add in the interest. Mr. Green of Texas referenced this. If you add in the interest, 1.9 trillion, $2 trillion, add it to the national debt with no stimulus for our economy, only debt for our children. Instead, here today, we have a bill that meets the needs of the American people. In the election, the American people cast their ballot for big, bold action and decisive leadership to turn the coronavirus pandemic and economic crisis around. Since then, the need has accelerated drastically. The time for decisive action is now. That is why today we will pass, Mr. Speaker, a budget resolution to pave the way for a landmark coronavirus rescue plan, which will do what is needed to save lives and livelihoods. We hope that Republicans in Congress would support a legislative package that would bring real relief to people and to our communities. And passing this budget does not preclude reaching a bipartisan agreement. I'd rather not work under reconciliation, but if that's the way we have to work in order to get results for the American people, we must use every option at our disposal. But I'm hopeful that we can have bipartisanship. And that does not ensure that Congress can move forward and meet the country's needs. The need for this action could not be more urgent, and Americans cannot afford to wait. They cannot afford any further delay.